Hi everyone, my name is Cherry Benson, and today I'd like to talk about something that is already affecting the way we work, communicate, and even the way we live, which is artificial intelligence, or also known as AI. Specifically, I'd like to look at what AI could mean for employment in the hospitality industry. So when we first hear the words artificial intelligence, one of the very first questions that comes to mind is probably, will AI take our jobs? I've heard this a million times, and I think that people are genuinely terrified of being replaced, and I think that fear is understandable. We are seeing AI becoming more capable every day. It can write, can translate, can analyze information, it can generate images and even videos, and it can answer all types of questions. And it is rapidly, increasingly performing tasks that would used to require human workers. So naturally, people ask, if AI can do what I do, what would happen to me? And the honest answer is that some tasks will be automated and some roles will change. Some occupations may eventually become smaller or even disappear. We've already seen versions of this happening. So if you think about fast food restaurants where you can order through a touch screen instead of speaking to a cashier, that's an example. Or restaurants and hotels introducing automated systems, or even airports where you can check yourself in. You can print your own boarding pass, and sometimes you can even check your own luggage with very minimal human assistance. But AI doesn't always, not AI, technology generally. Technology doesn't always eliminate a job. Sometimes it changes the nature of the job. So when technology enters the workplace, there are normally a couple possible outcomes. The first is replacement. A machine or system takes over a task that was formerly performed by a person. And the second is redesign. The job still exists, but the responsibilities change because technology takes care of certain tasks. And the third is adaptation. Workers learn how to use new technology and develop skills around it. So rather than thinking AI is coming for my job, we should always also be thinking which parts of my job can AI actually do and which parts still require me as a human. And to answer that question, we first need to understand what AI is and what it can do. So very quickly, this is what I will be covering today. I'll explain what artificial intelligence is. We'll focus on where it is already being used in hospitality and why it matters to the industry. And then I'll discuss the opportunities and risks that it can introduce. And finally, I'd like to focus on something that I think is often overlooked in conversations about AI, which is the human element. Because technology can make hospitality more efficient, but efficiency alone does not make something feel more like hospitable. And that brings us to the question of how humans and AI can actually work together and what the future of hospitality employment might look like. Now, I'm not going to spend too much time explaining what AI is because honestly, I think most of us already interact with it every single day. Artificial intelligence is essentially technology that allows machines to learn, analyze information, recognize patterns, and perform tasks that would normally require human intelligence. And we see examples of this everywhere. For example, AI robots. They are increasingly being introduced into restaurants and fast food chains to deliver food, to help with cleaning, and to support all these repetitive tasks. We also have self-check-in systems in hotels and airports where customers can complete these processes that would normally require a human employee. And then we have voice assistants. For example, we have Siri, we have Alexa. These are examples of AI that many people interact with without even thinking about it. And then there is generative AI, which I think has been especially difficult to ignore. We have tools like ChatGPT and Gemini. They can generate text, they can summarize all kinds of information, they can translate languages and basically help you with nearly everything. For some people, at this point, AI has almost become something that they cannot imagine working without. And then there is facial recognition, which I think is becoming more common. I have personally seen condominiums where the residents no longer need to use cards to access like elevator floors, for example. Instead, they would just simply look at the facial recognition system, and that is it. They can access the building without having to take out a card. So AI is not some distant technology that may or may not arrive in like 20 years. It is already part of our everyday lives, and hospitality is no exception. There are already several major areas where AI is being introduced. So first we have our like guest service. So things like AI chatbots and virtual assistants, they can answer questions, they can simply offer assistance 24/7. And second, we have reservations and front office operations. AI can automate booking confirmations and all these parts of the check-in process. And third, we have personalization and guest insights. So normally, hotels collect huge amounts of information about guest preferences. And AI can analyze that information and help businesses understand what different guests might want. And so instead of an employee having to like manually search through these records, AI can help identify these preferences and it can make the information more available to staff. And this is really something to note because AI does not always have to replace the employee. It can give the employee better information immediately. And I think that is one of the most valuable ways to think about AI. And artificial intelligence matters in hospitality because hospitality is an industry that involves like a huge number of repetitive processes. So you can think about reservations, confirmations, these scheduling, inventory. These are all like the kinds of tasks where AI can be extremely effective. So from a business perspective, I completely understand the appeal. I think that AI can save time, it can reduce costs, it can process um, massive chunks of information, and well, overall, it can improve efficiency. But efficiency has another side because if technology becomes responsible for more routine tasks, the nature of the jobs will also change. Some positions may be reduced, some may disappear, but Also, new responsibilities may also appear, normally around technology and human-centered service. So the question isn't just, will AI replace hospitality workers? We need to know how the hospitality workers will adapt. And that leads to what I think is an even more important question. As we make hospitality more efficient, what would happen to the human experience? So when AI enters hospitality, it brings both opportunity and risk. That is why I see AI as a double-edged sword. On one side, it can make hospitality faster, more efficient. It can reduce repetitive work, can personalize all these information, can analyze data, provide service around the clock. For example, an AI chatbot can answer a guest question at like 2 a.m. about check-in times and hotel facilities and among other like common requests. And that can be really beneficial. But on the other side is the risk. If certain tasks are can be automated, businesses may need less employees to perform them. There can also be less human interaction alongside concerns about like privacy and ethics. And I don't think AI should simply be viewed as good or bad. I think it solely depends on how we use it. I believe AI should assist employees. It should handle these routine tasks and support decision making and basically give employees more time and information to focus on the guests. But it shouldn't remove human interaction unnecessarily. And more importantly, employees should not be treated as disposable just because a person, not a person, just because a machine can perform part of their job. And well, this is where my perspective as a psych student comes in because psychology has taught me how crucial human connection and emotional understanding is to people. We as humans need to feel understood. We need to feel acknowledged, and we need to feel that we matter. Hospitality is fundamentally about people. Well, for example, think about someone arriving at a hotel after a really long flight. They may not remember how fast the computer processed their reservation, but they might remember the employee who helped them when something went wrong. They might remember if the employee asked if they were okay. They might remember feeling welcomed warmly because hospitality is not just about like completing a transaction. It's about how you make another person feel. So, what exactly makes hospitality human? For me, there are four important elements. First is empathy, the ability to understand another person's feelings, perspective, or situation. It's not simply knowing what someone is experiencing, it's trying to understand how that experience feels for them. And then we have emotional intelligence. And in hospitality, employees like constantly like interact with people who have different emotions, who have different expectations and needs. And a good employee has to recognize these emotions and they have to respond appropriately. And then there is care and human connection, which are both incredibly crucial. All these qualities matter because guests don't always communicate exactly what they need. Sometimes you have to read the situation, and sometimes you have to make a judgment that you cannot find elsewhere, and you can't find it in like a database or something. So that is why hospitality is not only about what we do for people, but also about how we make people feel while doing it. But if humans bring these qualities to hospitality, a lot of people ask, does that mean we should reject AI? I do not think so. I think the best answer is to collaborate. So instead of wanting to compete with AI, we should know how to complement each other because AI has multiple strengths. It can automate these repetitive tasks, it can analyze data, it can provide information like immediately. It can provide it can identify patterns and such. And humans, on the other side, we have different strengths. We can build genuine relationships. We can demonstrate empathy. We can use our judgment in really like complicated situations. So, we'll imagine the two working together. AI would analyze the guest preference, the guest preferences, and the employee decides how to use that information appropriately. Or AI would identify a problem, and then the human would decide how to respond to that, um, to the person experiencing the problem. So in that case, AI is not replacing the human experience. It is actually supporting it. And if that is something that we aim for, the future shouldn't have to be a competition. It could be a collaboration. And this brings me to my final point. I do not think the future of hospitality is like AI replacing humans. I think that it should be AI, humans working alongside AI because, quite frankly, what makes hospitality meaningful is not just efficiency, it's not just personalization, it's not just convenience. Hospitality is focused on how we make people feel. AI can recognize, it can recommend, respond, but humans can understand. We can empathize with each other, we can connect. And the more technology like can do, the more precious, the more valuable these human qualities may become. So I do not think that we should respond to AI by trying to compete with it at everything. We should learn what AI is good at. We should learn how to use it responsibly and ethically. And we as workers should develop the skills that technology cannot easily replace. So that means becoming better communicators. That also means developing your emotional intelligence, like understanding people, learning how to make judgments and such. And most importantly, staying human because adaptation is the future. You have to let technology improve the service, and you also have to let humanity define the experience in hospitality. Because ultimately, AI can deliver a service. AI can do pretty much everything, but only people can make it feel like hospitality. That will be all for my presentation. Thank you so very much for listening.